it was hard. It was a hard conversation to understand, especially being like 19 years old.
Yeah.
What do you mean that my kidney shut down? How are you telling me this right now? And I'm in like the prime of my life. You know what I mean? And I had to accept it. It took a while. I had to accept it, but I chose. And I think that was one thing that kind of allowed me to live, was that I chose to live anyway. In spite of the condition, I wasn't going to allow that thing to overcome me. I truly believe that there's lane for all of us, right? What you do and how you attract your audience may not necessarily be how I do mine, right? I feel like authenticity separates all of us. You can't copy an originator, right? You can't copy my work because you don't live, you haven't walked in my shoes. You may have heard my story, you may have read my story, you may try to copy my story, but you could never be me.
What's up, you guys? It's your girl Bianca B, and welcome to the Bianca B Show, where we talk about business, finances, and friendships. I'm super excited for today's guest. He is an award-winning host. He is an author. He is all about helping and inspiring people out there with his journey and the things that he's been through. So I'm super excited to talk with him. Courtney Starks, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. So I want to start this off with, what is the biggest advice you've ever received that you've taken with you through your journey?
I know one thing that I've been told in my journey that I now use, and it's, you don't get the right to give up, right? I think for me, that power play of somebody planting that seed in me has allowed me to live, right? And to live upon unapologetically, even when I feel like, man, this isn't working, right? Or how do I pivot? Or do I give this up? You know what I mean? I realize that our journeys and our lives and the things that we go through aren't for us, but for the people who are behind us, looking at us, trying to do the things that we're doing. You know what I mean?
I love that. And I like that you mentioned pivot. We're going to dive into your story. You are a host, first and foremost. I've seen your work, incredible. You've been in the game for a long time. So kind of give me your backstory of how you became a host and then eventually an author.
Yeah. So the hosting thing started in like 2010. I felt like there wasn't a real pivot point over to from high school to college and adulthood. And I felt like we were just kind of thrown to the wolves as millennials and figure it out, right? And a lot of us, and myself included, were in this space where we were like, well, what do we do, right? We're not kids anymore. You're telling us that we're grown, but I don't feel grown, right? I need assistance. I need help. What is going on? How do you just leave me here? And I realized people needed to hear this.
Yeah.
People going through what I was going through. And it just became a conversation. Who would have thought that would turn into a show? I have no idea. But I remember kind of being in a space where I was like, oh, whatever, you know, we're older now, I'm done. And people in my inbox saying, hey, so when's your show going to air? And I'm like, what show? I'm just talking. I'm just having a conversation. And boom, I'm like, all right, so this is bigger than me.
Yeah.
All right, things happen. My kidney journey kind of started around that time. I had kidney failure. I gave it up because I just couldn't do that and then be a host at the same time. It was really a lot on my body. I got my kidney transplant in 2017, and God was like, oh, you thought that this was over. Okay, so here you go, and I'm going to make this bigger because you just trusted me. And it took over. So it was me. And in the process of doing the show, of course, COVID happens.
Yeah.
I had to pivot over to doing this virtually. And in the process of me doing it virtually, a lady came on the show. She was an emotional therapist. And she flipped the show on me and made my show about me and my journey. And I had never spoken about it after I got my transplant. And in the process of doing the show, after we were done, I realized that somebody needed to hear this, right? Somebody needed to know that there's life after ailment. There's life after all of these, you know, problems and issues that you may face. There's always life after if you trust God and you trust yourself enough to get over. And I wrote a book.
Yeah.
I just started writing, right? That healing journey of writing it down and making it plain and having that conversation with myself, with God, letting out my frustrations.
Yeah.
On a book, you know?
I love that. And I want to pivot to a different topics. So you started in 2010 and you're on your 5th season now.
Yeah.
You know, the hosting industry has changed so much, from, like you said, in studio to virtual. And so how do you feel about the industry and how it's shifted over to a lot of people having a show now and things like that? How do you separate yourself from what other people are doing?
I truly believe that there's lane for all of us, right? What you do and how you attract your audience may not necessarily be how I do mine, right? I feel like authenticity separates all of us, right? And what we are willing to talk about. I know the whole celebrity aspect of the show and having them on the show has always been a plus, right? That's just a plus, but that doesn't make the show. You know what I'm saying? So for me, my show definitely gears towards giving people that don't have a voice that platform to speak and to be heard and to feel safe. And everybody else has their own thing. So for me, it's never really been like, okay, I'm in competition, or okay, I may have to watch my back, because you can't copy an originator. Right? Okay. You can't copy my work because you don't live, you haven't walked in my shoes. You may have heard my story, you may have read my story, you may try to copy my story, but you could never be me. So I live abundantly, right? Because I know at the end of the day, I have my audience and my niche, and you have yours, and we're going to be okay. We're going to get to the top together, you know?
I love that. And then going into your story, did you go to the doctor and they just told you about your kidney? Kind of walk me through, how did you, this transformation and learning about your kidney failure?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I was always sick. No one ever said to me, your kidneys are failing. Everything was like, when you're big, it's all about your weight, right? You got to lose weight. You got to lose weight. You got to lose weight. But no one's really explaining to you, this is what's going on with your body. They're just telling you, you're obese, you got to lose weight. Okay, we go through this up and down of my weight. I'm in college and complete shutdown. My body completely shuts down. I get to the hospital and they're like, oh, well, your kidneys are shut down. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, shut them back on, because what are you talking about, right? Like, when has this conversation ever been a thing? And it opened my eyes to being your own advocate and kind of also doing your homework, right? A lot of times we're in these communities and living and going to these hospitals where you're just a number. Unfortunately, that's what it is. And if you're not willing to do your own due diligence, you can't expect them to do theirs, So it was hard. It was a hard conversation to understand, especially being like 19 years old.
Yeah.
What do you mean that my kidney shut down? How are you telling me this right now? And I'm in like the prime of my life. You know what I mean? And I had to accept it. It took a while. I had to accept it, but I chose. And I think that was one thing that kind of allowed me to live, was that I chose to live anyway. In spite of the condition, I wasn't going to allow that thing to overcome me. And I had to be on top of that and live and live and live and live. And I'm here now,
That's amazing. And so I want to ask you, what were some signs and symptoms that, you did your research? What are some signs and symptoms that, maybe if I'm watching this or listening to this, signs and symptoms of kidney and I'm having issues? How do you know,
Yeah. So for me personally, one of the things that I realize is that you gain a lot of water weight, right? All of the toxins in your body have nowhere to go. They don't have a place to go, because normally you're urinating this out, or however you go into the bathroom, you are letting those toxins out of your body. So you start feeling like heavy, real heavy, shortness of breath. Your body starts becoming swollen, and then you get to a point where you just can't move, right? Because now the toxins in your body are taking over, right? They're covering your heart, they're covering your liver, your lungs, and it happens like this. So I was lucky. I was one of the lucky ones who was able to get to the doctor in time. And I remember the doctor even saying to me, if you waited one more day, you would have been dead. And like, these are things that overplay in my mind when I think about taking advantage of the blessing that I have now, right? Like, you could have died. You know what I mean? You could have died. So I always tell people, be very mindful of how you feel. It may not be that thing, but don't hesitate to get up, especially as Black men, to get up and go get checked out. Mm-hmm. It's not something that Tylenol can fix or Robitussin can fix. Go get checked out and see what's wrong, you know?
Mm. And I also like that you mentioned that, because a lot of us are fearful in our community to go to the doctor and get tested and, you know, those updates. So you created this book, you know, you talked about how the therapist came on your show. So you wrote the book in what you said, 2017 you started writing?
So I wrote the book, COVID happened in 2020. So I wrote the book, I want to say the summer of 2020. So you figure I got my transplant in 2017. I hadn't talked about this experience until 2020. Mm-hmm. Like, people knew, like, if you were my friends, you knew. You were my family, you knew. But I didn't want to share it, right? It was a hard reality for me. And then coming out of it and then trying to live this normal life was so hard. Like, because you get so used to what was, right? And then you're like, okay, so what do I do now? How do I pick up and keep going? So it was really tough for me to even want to talk about. It was emotional. And then I realized I didn't have a choice. Mm-hmm. Right? I didn't have a choice. Somebody needed to hear the story. So I had to.
Yeah. And what's the name of the book, and what can people learn from this book?
So the name of the book is My Kidneys Failed Me, But God Did It. Mm-hmm. A Journey of Growth and Rediscovery. You get to know a little bit more about me, my family. I went through a lot of identity crisis, right? Just kind of trying to find myself. My parents had died. Both of them had died in both separate instances, and kind of dealing with that rejection. There's an instance in the book and in my life where in 2014, I got called for a kidney and then got rejected. And I tied that into the rejection aspect of my life and what I was kind of going through mentally. And then you get to know what life is like after, right? Yeah. Like, what I initially went through, the first thing that I ate, and just how I picked back up and trucked on, you know what I mean? And just kind of trusted God and allow him to lead me on, you know?
And what I love about your story is that you really didn't give up. Like, you have maintained your success, and you have inspired a lot of people, and you continuously do it. And so, you know, with our generation, especially being millennials, we have this work ethic that we're always trying to prove ourselves, and we suffer with imposter syndrome and those identity shifts. And so what have you learned about yourself throughout this process that, you know, was I too hard on myself? Did I put too much in my career instead of my health? What did you learn about yourself throughout these 10 plus years?
I realized that you only get this one life, right? And we don't get any younger. You can't take what you do have for granted. I look around and I see so many people that we've grown up with are gone, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't know what the situation is, but you know that, oh my God, that could have been me, right? That could be me any day. And learning over these 10 years of what life is, what it means, like this, having breath in your body, being able to wake up in the morning, knowing that there's been 10 or thousands of other people who didn't get the opportunity. You know what I mean? So one thing I realized, even after going through the process, was you're not guaranteed these days. So the days you do wake up, you do get to breathe, you do get to walk, take it for granted. You live in that moment. And I choose every day to live in the moment and not waste any of it. I used to live in a posture of, oh my God, I'm not worthy. Oh my God, I don't know if I'm good enough. And now I tell myself every single day, you are worthy. You are worth it. Someone is going to do this. Someone needs you to do this. God is calling you to do this. And those affirmations get me through my day every single day, even when I don't want to get up. I know that my life is not my own. You know what I mean? And that's what motivates me to get up and do what I do every single day.
I love that. And then also you have your foundation. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, the Courtney's Corner Give Back Foundation. That's my baby. During COVID, one of the things that I had to sit with was there are people outside my doorstep struggling. You don't think about those things until you have to sit in them, right? Like every day you walk past a homeless person or somebody who's mentally going through it and you just continue on your day. But COVID allowed us all to sit in those things because we couldn't move. There was nowhere to go. And you look around and you see families living on the street. You see people begging to eat. You see people who are just in dire need of someone to love on them. And as I was sitting here, I'm saying to myself, I can do more, right? I can do so much more. There have been so many people who have given to me without expecting anything in return, right? Like I wanted to be able to do that and give that back and not to receive any glory from it, but to know that someone's life has been changed because I gave selflessly. And we started this back in 2020. We've had tons of different events for the community, give backs, and just things to allow the community to know that we really are in this together. This village thing that we talk about, it hasn't gone anywhere. Yes, times have shifted, but we still need each other to make this happen. And until we realize that, we're always going to be scattering, trying to find our way in this world, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And you also have your Roku TV talk show. This is the 5th season, correct?
Yes, one-on-one with Courtney Starks. Oh my God. That was another thing that I had to pivot. And I always tell this story. During 2020, we were getting ready to sign a production deal with a media company. Can't really disclose that. But COVID happened and literally balled everything that we had planned.
Yeah.
And I could have been like, you know what? Screw the show, right? I got other things that I can be doing. But in my heart, I knew that I couldn't stop. I had to try again, right? There was somebody out here who enjoyed the show or were being blessed because of what we were doing on the show. Yeah. And I pivoted. All right, well, let's try this virtual world. And it's made the show even bigger than I could have imagined. I had to simplify. It taught me a lot about myself and what I needed to do and how I needed to show up, you know what I mean, on the show. And once I was able to do all of these things, I feel like doors open, right? You show up, you do the work, you dedicate yourself to this, and now I'm going to bless you because of your obedience. And we're rocking really strong, and I'm enjoying the moment.
I love that the key word of this episode has been pivot, because a lot of people don't know how to pivot. A lot of people do give up and don't have faith. And how do you remain to have faith within this industry?
I know that there are so many people in this industry that are conspiring against you, right? They don't want to see you happy. They don't want to see you successful. So I keep my foundation built on Christ, right? Foundation built on someone who loved me enough to not only die, but rise again and give me life and a second chance at it at that. How could I not? How could I not live and breathe faith? You understand what I'm saying? Even when you can't see it, even when it's confusing, even when you don't know what's going on, I choose to believe that there is so much more for me just because I choose to trust, right? But once again, without expecting anything in return, I choose to trust and I build my platform on that. So anybody you see on the show has to have a story, right? How are you reaching the world? What are you doing to get back to the community? Like, how is your life made so that way people can say, because of you, I have been able to do this. You know what I mean? And that's what I do every single day, you know?
And you're an award-winning host at that. So I love for people to take away information from interviews. So what are 3 business tips that you can give to people out there who want to be a host?
A few things, but top 3 is know who you're trying to reach. This thing of, oh, I'm trying to reach everybody, is not real. As much as you try to reach everybody, you can't. Know who your target audience is, and the people outside of that, let them see it. But at the end of the day, know who you're talking to. 1. 2, as a host, always do your homework. If my thing to you is, let me know about yourself, you tell me about yourself, then this is not a conversation. You understand what I'm saying? And 3 is to always be genuine. people pick up on things that are not authentic, right? Yeah. I can tell, I can I can understand when you're trying to like play the game. And I think a lot of people, a lot of audience can see when a host is not being true to themselves. Yeah. It exudes out of your pores. You know what I mean? And I know you said 3, but my last one is at the end of the day, be able to pivot. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? As a business entrepreneur, the show that you may have dreamed of in your mind may not be the show that you're going to produce. Yeah. Next 5 years, but be able to take the steps to get to where you want to go and be okay in that moment, you know?
And what are some financial tips that you can give to people that you've learned throughout this process? Because, you know, it's pros and cons, ups and downs.
Yeah. Saving is really, really one. I think for us, we've had to save a lot and write down your spending and what you can cut. You know, I realize this is a dream, but no one's going to invest in me like I invest in me. So first, invest in yourself. 2, I know for myself, I did a lot of emailing, right? And trying to get people on board and being able to pitch yourself. I think people are going to invest in you if they know exactly what you're doing on paper. So writing a business plan and making it plain. Like, we don't have to add all these fancy words to tell me that you want to be a talk show host or to tell me that you want somebody to invest in you. Make it plain. You understand what I'm saying? And I think lastly is knowing that people are willing to help if you're willing to ask, right? Like, there have been so many people who have donated to the show, to all of the things that we have, all of the lights, all these crazy things. And I couldn't have done it by myself. So I got a team who invests in me and in the vision. You understand what I'm saying? So it's been some ups, like you said, there's been some downs, but financially we've been blessed. You know what I mean? And I don't take it for granted.
The last thing, friendships. You know, there's a lot of relationship building within this industry. Who are some of your core people, like friendship tips? And how do you know if someone is rocking with you just for your success or if they genuinely, you know, care about you?
You know, I love that you asked me that. When I first started doing Courtney's Corner, I've shared this before. I think this is the second time now I'm going to share this. I was in such a dire need to get people that I was letting anybody come in, right? Okay, you say you can do this? All right, come on. You said you can do that? Okay, come on. And then it got to a point where I didn't even see myself in the show no more, right? Like, everybody else's dreams and visions were being, you know, escalated into this show. And I'm like, this is not who I am. These are not my friends. They don't want what's best for me. They want what's best for them. Yeah. And when we pivoted, everybody left. The entire team. And when I rebuilt, I had to pray about this. Number one, prayer is really important when you're doing this. And I had to pray and ask God to send all the right people. And who would have thought that the people that he would have sent, I've known my entire life. Wow. You know what I mean? And so all of the friends that I've made throughout my entire 30-something years of life have come, and I didn't have to go looking for them. Yeah. Right? They saw the show. They wanted to be involved. They have the skill set, but I was too prideful to ask. And God sent them anyway. Even in my disobedience, he was like, all right, let's go. Let's make this happen. So the team now are all people who I've known 20 plus years. So the bond is like this. And I don't have to worry about you trying to take what's mine because it's ours. You know what I mean? And we built it. So yeah.
I love that. Those were really great tips. I love that so much. I just want to say I'm so proud of you and everything that you've done and your social media presence. And I've seen your work before. I spoke with Tia, and I'm so grateful that we were able to sit down and chat. And where can people follow you? Where can people buy your book?
Yeah. So you can follow me at Courtney's Corner, at Courtney Starks Official. Everything is Courtney Starks Official. The book is on Amazon or my website at www.courtneyscornerllc.com. If you buy your book or Labor Day weekend, you get a free shirt to go along with it. So go ahead, tap in and get the book.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's your girl, Bianca B. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram at It's Bianca B and at Bianca B Show. Thank you guys. Bianca B, Bianca B, Bianca B. Bianca beat it.